That on camera anyway. Okay, well, welcome everybody to our first Food for Thought lecture for this semester. Our topic this semester is going to be looking at the city of Baton Rouge and space, and the different kinds of spaces we have and how we use our space as a city, and how our concerns for justice apply to some of that. Our speaker today is Dr. Michael Desmond from the School of Architecture. He is the historian that works in the School of Architecture. He has a PhD in history, theory, and criticism in architecture from MIT. His major research areas are on the role of architecture in society, including American architecture and urban history, and belief systems as frames for evaluation of architecture, which I don't know what it means, but it sounds really interesting. And today he will be speaking about sharing space, a study of the Baton Rouge community. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. First thing I'm going to do is get some more coffee. Give Jane a chance to sit down.
Thanks.
And I'll close the door too.
That's supposed to be coming. I think she might be lost.
She can find this.
She's not on campus. I know.
It's such a lovely day.
I know.
I don't think it's going to work.
She wanted to ask you something about time.
Okay, well.
But she's not here, so.
Well, every time. Okay, guys. Paul asked me last year if I'd be willing to come and speak with you guys over lunch. And he was very inspecific about what I was going to be speaking about, so I, of course, agreed. And Betsy called a few weeks ago and told me I was going to be talking about space. And so, okay, that's sufficiently broad. I can handle that. And then she wanted me to come today so that it'd be sort of the first of these in this series that you're doing. And so, if you know, in thinking then about, okay, well, what are the foundational issues, or what are the basic issues having to be with space that might be useful, and of course without knowing all the rest of the speakers that you might have, that left me in a bit of a quandary as well. I think that space is a very interesting thing. I'll paraphrase Albert Einstein. In describing it, he says that space is an illusion, even if a very persistent one. He used the word reality as an illusion, even if a very persistent one. And what I mean is that I think that space is a cultural category, certainly. It's something that we think of as existing objectively in the world, but I think that any such definition is really meaningless. That it's a cultural phenomenon that we load with behaviorally significant symbols and meanings in the way we do language, or in the way we do all sorts of cultural systems. I started out my history classes. And by the way, none of this is what I'm going to talk about today. I start out my history classes with an example. You know, you imagine this morning when you got up, perhaps you went into the bathroom at your house and were brushing your teeth in front of the mirror and looking in the mirror. And when you look into the mirror, you see, or you think you see, you imagine that you see, a reflection in a full three-dimensional space behind you in the mirror. That's your bathroom in reflection. And on a warmer day, maybe the window in the bathroom was open, and if a little bird had flown in and sat on your shoulder and looked at the mirror, it wouldn't see that illusion of your bathroom behind you. In fact, it wouldn't even know that it was in a bathroom. Plausible, right? But for us, you cannot not know that you're in a bathroom. Okay? And if you imagine all of the different rooms and all the different buildings and all the different experiences in the city that you have, that applies to some degree or another. That we've learned cultural systems. We've learned how to behave, how to interact with one another, how to hold ourselves, what to expect of ourselves, what to expect of other people, in concert with the way we've reshaped the environment. There's a set of behavioral clues and symbol systems that are enormously powerful. You know, there's the other example, maybe you've had the opportunity in high school or in college of taking a sketching class where the teacher would ask you to draw a chair. And then after everybody in class does their drawing of the chair, she takes it and turns it upside down and puts it on a box on the table, and then asks everybody to draw the chair again. Has anybody ever had that exercise? Well, you know, guess what? The second drawings are much, much better drawings, almost always. They're much better drawings of the chair. Take the drawing, turn it upside down, and say, oh, it's a beautiful drawing of a chair. And the reason for that is because when the teacher asks you to draw a chair, you have in your mind, oh, I know what that chair is. It's an established category. And that's what you draw, only hesitatingly looking at the actual physical chair. But when she turns it upside down, it takes it out of context, and that mechanism doesn't work, and you have to really look seriously. And you draw what's there. Right? Just another sort of simple, obvious example of the way in which our preconceptions are embedded in the, or interact with the landscape and the built environment. It happens, you know, billions of times every day. Every moment of our day is composed of those kinds of negotiations, and we need them. Right? We couldn't have human culture without those kinds of things, and they are severely limiting, but also incredibly enabling as well. And so the world of space, you see, for me, is a very complex world that's embodied, that's embedded in everything we do, and there are a set of cultural paradigms and cultural forms that allow us to be who we are in so many different ways. And there are different paradigms and different examples. So what I thought I'd do today is look at, in just kind of in a I know I want a time, how much time I got?
Roughly an hour from when you start.
Okay. I thought I'd look at a few of the sort of circumstances of the origin of Baton Rouge and the contingency of our city. I think that our city is a very interesting one. Come on in. That's okay. We're just getting started. Our city is a very interesting one. It's a city that I've been involved over the last 2 or 3 years with an effort to explore the notion of a museum of Baton Rouge. And once you get over the notion that that's an oxymoron, come to find out that it's a very rich city with a complex, multi-layered history that's not very well known, that's not known by the people that live here, and that's hidden. And in terms of the urban structure, especially the downtown area, the core part of our city, there have been 2 or 3 different cities here that have been built and flourished and had their own characteristics and their own patterns, and then have gone away and been replaced by other kinds of things that are wholly unknown. The idea of historical continuity is an odd thing here. So that's one aspect, and the other aspect is the contingency that has been involved in creating the city that we're looking at here. And so I want to just kind of ramble a little bit and bring up a series of related sort of notions and forms. And if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask about it. One of the influential, one of the reasons we're here is that there's an unusual geological feature known as the Baton Rouge Reach. That's a roughly 10-mile, almost straight north-south run of the Mississippi River. One of the few places along the whole river that happens. It happens adjacent to a bluff, which is the last bluff that engages the river these days. And so we're next to high ground, the last high ground as you approach the Gulf. And that's a position that has been found useful for thousands of years by the people in the area. You know, we know now, for example, that our Indian mounds here are some 6,000 years old. There were Indian mounds, 2 Indian mounds on the lakes downtown. I don't know, one of them's gone. I don't know if those have been dated, if they're nearly as old as that. There are other mounds in the area that aren't as old as that. But you know, one of the important points of that is that high ground next to the river. Lots of ways you can assess that. The fort that you see there, which was built initially by the British, coming down from Natchez to defend Natchez, which was a well-established British settlement, from the Spanish, eventually taken over by the Spanish, marks in some ways the beginning of urbanity or serious building in Baton Rouge. This riverfront had been used by Native Americans for a long, long time, although there is no trace of their village here, really, the different indications of where that might have been. And there were farmers and people that had settled in the 1600s here, but really very little impact of their involvement as well. I think it's helpful to look at the immediate local microenvironment. The Mississippi River, of course, is such a dominant feature here, and most of us think that it's the determining issue in settlement, and it is, of course, in a lot of ways. But once you're up on the bluff, everything drains to the east, to the Amite River. And so all of these different tributaries take on a real big significance. And the orientation to the river is important right along the river, but after that, not so much. It's not really been that big of an influence in our patterns of settlement as they've emerged. That's the location where this Fort New Richmond and then Fort San Carlos was originally located. If we look at one of the first comprehensive maps of Baton Rouge, yeah.
Oh, about what time period was the British fort?
The fort was built in the 18th century. What's the date?
About 1760. Between 1763 and 69, but it's, I'm sorry, not 69, 79. So I think it dates about 1575 or so. Yeah.
Taken over by the Spanish. Eventually the site was given to the Americans.
1770.
Are you about to put it into?
But when the Spanish got Louisiana, they very quickly got control of the fort. And it was, you know, fort is probably a big word. It was earthworks for the most part. The Pentagon barracks that are there were built after the U.S. military took possession of the site.
So that is the site. It's where the Pentagon barracks are.
Right, where the Pentagon barracks are. Yeah, that's right. Interesting map here. One of the earliest complete maps of the parish, the Kaiser Swenson map of about 1895, and blow up a part of it, and you can see what a chaos it is, what a royal mess it is. There are at least 3 different methods of land surveying that went into this over the last several centuries. The oldest here is the French Arpent system, which many of you are probably familiar with. You can see that a little better down here along the Highland Road escarpment, although it shows up in some other places. The French, and then